Good morning. Thank you for joining today's panel discussion on Community Development Financial Institutions, or CDFIs, made possible by the Knoxville Chamber's Entrepreneurship Small Business Ecosystem sponsors, Shod Companies, Computer Systems Plus, and Knoxville TVA Employees Credit Union. At this time, I would like to welcome Rob Glass from Computer Systems Plus to give an introduction.
Thank you, Nancy. Good morning, everybody. Thank you for having me here virtually. My name is Rob Glass. I'm with Computer Systems Plus, and we are an almost 40-year-old IT solutions company taking care of the daily IT and cybersecurity needs of small and medium companies throughout the greater Knoxville area. And we are super proud sponsors of the Knoxville Chamber ecosystem in that program. Without programs like this, we wouldn't have some of our wonderful clients to take care of. And so we are super appreciative to be a part of this program. Information systems and their IT security needs have become a focal point for even the smallest companies. It's the way they succeed and grow. And it's also become the largest headache. So we take pride in becoming an extension of these teams to take away these headaches and allow their teams to focus on taking care of their clients and growing their business. With that, we desire to grow and scale these companies, and being a part of an ecosystem like this helps us to pour our energy into making a vibrant community of business here in Knoxville. And we would love an opportunity to pour some of that energy into other companies as well. And if that's something that interests you, please feel free to reach out to me and my team. And thank you for having us here today and being a part of this sponsorship. So appreciate it, Nancy.
Thank you, Rob. The purpose of this recorded event is to educate our residents, particularly small and mid-sized business owners, about CDFIs. I'm Nancy Neighbors, Director of Regional Enhancement at the Chamber. With me are representatives of 4 CDFIs that serve our community, 3 with local offices, and a newcomer with a digital-only service. Please introduce yourselves. We'll start with you, Charles.
There we go. I had to come off mute. Good morning, and thank you for having me. It truly is an honor and a pleasure to share this virtual stage with you all. Charles Lomax, and I am the President and CEO of the Knoxville Area Urban League. Been in this role since December the 12th of last year, and really excited about the work that we're being able to do within our community.
And Grady?
I'm Grady Vanderhoofen. I'm the founder and the president and the chief executive officer of Three Roots Capital here in Knoxville. Looking forward to this session and very much appreciate the Chamber coordinating this event.
And Keith?
Good morning. Thanks, Nancy, and thanks for hosting this event. Really looking forward to our partners here on the line having a great conversation today. My name is Keith Hickey. I'm Senior Vice President of Lending for Pathway Lending, headquartered in Nashville, and we have offices in all of the metro areas across the state. So it's really nice to see everyone and glad to be here. Thanks for having us.
Amber?
Good morning, everyone. I'm Amber Caney. I'm head of stakeholder engagement for DreamSpring. We're the newbie in the community, but we've been around for 30 years. And I've been working for and with CDFIs for the better part of 2 decades. And I can tell you that it really is the secret sauce for small business owners. And so I'm really excited to be a part of this conversation and here to be a resource.
Thank you all for serving on the panel. Viewers, feel free to post your questions in the chat at any time. The panelists will answer them after the discussion. Let's start off with the definition of CDFI. It's a private financial institution whose primary mission is to help low and middle income individuals within urban and rural communities that are traditionally left out of banking and investing options in order to trigger overall economic growth and community development. The federal government supports CDFIs by awarding funding and tax credits to institutions certified under the U.S. Treasury, a competitive process that requires CDFIs to provide at least a 1-to-1 match of non-federal funds, which can be obtained from state and local grants, banks, credit unions, corporations, private foundations, religious institutions, and individuals. At least 60% of their lending must go towards supporting underserved communities. Panelists, do you have anything to add to the definition? Okay, I must have been pretty, oh, Grady does.
Yeah, Nancy, I would add, and I'm sure everybody might have something to add, but I would just say that there's a big variety of CDFIs. There are banks that are CDFIs, credit unions that are CDFIs, there are CDFI loan funds, CDFI venture funds, a big variety of shapes and sizes and flavors of CDFIs. And, some focus on consumer lending, some focus on small business lending, some focus on commercial real estate. CDFIs are not one size fit all. And so when someone says, hey, I'm a CDFI, there could be a lot behind that or under the hood to really help a prospective borrower or prospective business partner really understand the nature of the CDFI.
You're correct. Thank you, Grady, for explaining that further. Anyone else have anything to add before we move on to the next question? Okay. In what ways are CDFIs different from banks?
I can jump in here. So CDFIs can offer financial products like a bank, but we're not regulated the same way. So we have a lot of flexibility in the products, services, tools, and offerings that we have. It also enables us to underwrite in really unique ways. And, as Nancy said earlier, our focus is really on underserved communities. And so figuring out how we can create the best opportunities to provide capital resources. A lot of us offer education to help elevate and ready small businesses for the next step. And so it's a stepping stone to a bank in many regards, but we have a lot of creativity and agility just because we're smaller and we're more nimble.
I'll jump in behind that. I think that's spot on what Amber just shared. And because of that nature, and oftentimes it is a starting point, I think that one of the big differences a lot of times is just the relationships that are established and built from that. It becomes a relationship of trust where you're able to work hands-on with that individual or that company, whereas a bank doesn't always have that leeway or ability to form the type of relationship that CDFIs can.
I'll jump in as well. I think both Amber and Charles nailed it. And one of the things that I always talk about when I'm meeting with new prospects or partners is the technical assistance side of what we do. It's very important, that we spend the time with our clients and understand their business. And we're able to do that, as Amber mentioned, because we're not regulated like banks are. And as Grady mentioned, there are so many different CDFIs, and that's the beauty of being in a town like Knoxville is we have several, but we all kind of play our own role and we all partner really well with the other CDFIs in town. And so I think that's what makes our city unique is the fact that we can work so well together and focus on the client more so than just our needs and what we are looking for. So I really do think we set ourselves apart quite a bit from our banking partners.
And I can just give an example of that in action. And so Pathway and DreamSpring have long been members of a collaborative where we share data, share learnings to support veteran entrepreneurs. And so we work together figuring out how we can complement what one another do. And I don't think that's something you necessarily see banks doing. And so there's a lot of information sharing because at the end of the day, if every CDFI doubled our capacity, we still would not meet the unmet need for small business capital. And so there's a real need for us to work together. And even though it may not be super transparent on our website, we're always finding new ways to connect and work together to create new solutions and augment what's already happening in the community.
Okay. We'll move on to the next question. You mentioned this earlier, Keith, that CDFIs are different from banks in that they offer small business owners technical assistance, which is educational and guidance services. Please describe some of the technical assistance that your organization provides.
Yeah, we have a variety of services. We have anywhere from, we do online trainings to P&L and balance sheet training. We do trainings for our vets. We have online and in-person Boost to Business programs. We have Coaching to Capital, which is another really nice program that we use, where we actually go in to set up, people actually do online sessions with us, and we'll go through a cohort. And then also just as simple as going in and meeting with a client and going over their inventory numbers. I mean, we can do Coaching to Capital. We can do technical assistance pretty much on any variety of anything that our clients would need. We do, we have emerging developers programs for young developers that want to get into, affordable housing or affordable multifamily projects. Key Dawson runs that program for us and does a really fine job. And then we also have, the energy program, where we go in and do adjustings on larger corporations or larger facilities, where we can go in and do energy upgrades. And Brandon does a really good job of coaching those folks and using our tools that TVA provides us to be able to show them the difference when they're looking at energy savings. And most of the time when they do energy upgrades, the savings actually pays for the payment of the loan. And so there's just an extremely large variety of technical assistance that we provide. And I know everybody else has similar things at their companies as well. And then, on top of that, we do a lot with our just our Women's Business Center and our Veteran Business Center that I mentioned earlier.
Okay. We'll move on to the next question. Please tell us about your organization and some of the programs that you offer. Grady, we can start with you.
Okay. Happy to do that. So Three Roots Capital is the concept for Three Roots Capital is similar to, or based on, it's kind of an analogy of how the root system of a plant feeds the plant. Plants draw water and nutrients from the soil to feed the plant, so the plant can grow and thrive. And we think businesses are very similar. There are certain nutrients, certain things that a business needs to grow and thrive and be successful. One of those things is capital. One of those things is coaching. And one of those is connections. So we formed Three Roots to be a mechanism or an organization that would help businesses access capital, coaching, and connections. We're a nonprofit. We're a 501c3 financial institution. We're headquartered in Knoxville, Tennessee, and East Tennessee is the center of our lending and investing target, but we can make loans or investments anywhere in the state of Tennessee and really anywhere in central and southern Appalachia. We have $125 million of assets under management today. Historically, we've loaned out about $116 million loaned and invested. We have about $82.5 million currently committed. Historically, about 40% of our loans have been $50,000 or less. 33% of our loans have been in rural areas. More than 80% of our loans have been made in high poverty census tracts. 45% of our loans have been in opportunity zones. About half of our loans have been made to companies that are generating less than $1 million a year of revenue. Our smallest loan has been just slightly less than $20,000, and our largest loan was a $16.8 million loan that we closed earlier this year. We have a toolbox that has a variety of tools in the toolbox. I like to think if the only tool in your toolbox is a hammer, then you run around looking for nails or treating every situation like it needs to, involve a hammer. But if you have a screwdriver in your toolbox and a hammer in your toolbox and a pair of pliers in your toolbox, then you can pull out the tool that best fits the need when you identify it. So we have, for example, a rural microloan fund. We make loans to very small businesses in rural areas. We make small business loans. We make commercial real estate loans. We make loans to multifamily housing development, affordable housing, workforce housing development. We make subordinated loans. We also have products in the equity. We have equity and equity-like products. We can make direct equity investments, and we do that in small innovation-based companies. We provide venture debt. We provide convertible debt. So that's sort of the capital part. It's capital, coaching, and connections. That's the capital part. Everybody on this call has some tools in their toolbox, and they can all talk about that. That's access to capital. That's the tip of the spear. Coaching is the technical assistance part, which we were talking about earlier, right? That's the coaching. So what can you provide to a business beyond the capital that really helps the business be successful? And we all have technical assistance offerings that we provide. And then the third, so capital, coaching, and then connections. We know that we don't have the ability to address every single need. We can't provide all the capital to all the businesses. We don't have all the knowledge and expertise to provide all of the technical assistance, but we have relationships with others, and we can connect businesses to other resources that can help those businesses be successful. So we have relationships with banks, investors, other CDFIs, attorneys, accountants, consultants, vendors, research institutions, academic institutions. An example, a couple of years ago, we had a company that we were working with. We didn't have the product they needed. We referred the company to Pathway Lending, who made an SBA microloan to the company. This was probably 6 years ago when we didn't have the capacity or the ability to make that loan. So we introduced that company to Pathway Lending because they could make that loan. We had a client company, it was a small company. When they needed to borrow a larger amount of money, we introduced them to one of our bank partners because our bank partner could make the loan to that company that they needed at that time. So capital, coaching, and connections are the three roots of Three Roots Capital.
Grady, thank you for that. Charles, can you tell us about Urban League?
There we go. So the Knoxville Area Urban League has been serving the Knoxville community since 1968. And we are an affiliate of the National Urban League, which came along in 1910. And the work of the Urban League is extremely vast, but we operate in a few different areas: education, entrepreneurship, health, housing, jobs, and justice. And our work with the CDFI is work that we're extremely proud of. And we have been a certified CDFI since 2013 and really got involved during the Empowerment Zone era and really trying to make sure that we were operating in a way that could help those that did not have access to the banks in order to make their dreams come true. And so we have been operational within Knox County, Sevier County, and Blount County when it comes to our loans in Anderson County. And we typically specialize in smaller amounts. And so we're able to lend up to $250,000, but on average, we're around $35,000. And with that, we work with individuals that come through our doors and have a few different programs to help them and to assist them in that work. And so we have a program called Co-Starters, which is our 10-week program for those that are entrepreneurs in all stages, but primarily for startups. And participants discuss business concepts, build and test small models, and learn through the collaborative process with that, and working with other entrepreneurs in order to create and build a successful small business. And then for those that are beyond that, we have another program called Next Level, which is our business growth training. And it's a 7-month commitment within our program, but it's developed to help design small business owners who want to see growth in their business. And it is a program with a 3-year growth plan that has been vetted by peers and business experts. And so we've had a number of different individuals that have come through those, and we've seen some great success with that. And in turn, them being able to expand their businesses and also create jobs within the community that provide assets and benefits for others as well.
Charles, thank you. Keith, you want to tell us a little bit more about Pathway?
Absolutely, yeah. Pathway Lending. We're of course, a CDFI headquartered in Nashville. We have offices, physical offices, and folks in Knoxville. I live in Knoxville, have always lived in Knoxville. We have offices in Memphis, and we have offices in Chattanooga. We're in all 95 counties. We started a little over 20 years ago. We're fastly approaching 25 years in business. We're a little over $300 million in total assets. We put about $50 to $60 million a year on the street in new lending. We focus our efforts a lot in small business lending. And as Grady mentioned, we were able to help one of their clients, and we do this a lot where we refer stuff back and forth, but our loans can actually go down to $5,000. Our loans are typically $5,000 to $5 million. That's the range we typically stay in, with the majority of our lending being small business focused in all of our areas. Again, rural across the state, all the metro areas. We focus our energies in 3 other categories. Primarily, we have the energy efficiency loan program that I mentioned earlier, which is a TVA program that we've been a part of for over a decade now. Brandon Ingham runs that program for us, where companies go in and upgrade their energy programs, lighting, HVAC, reflective roofs, chiller boilers, stuff like that. Big projects in Knoxville and across the state with that program. We also focus, we have 2 separate offices in Memphis. We have a place-based $30 million loan fund there in the Memphis Medical District with the Memphis Medical District Collaborative. We also focus multi-affordable housing, multifamily affordable housing across the whole state. As we all know, I mean, everybody on this call and everybody that we've ever talked to, we understand Tennessee has an affordable housing crisis, just like most states do. So we're spending a great deal of time in that space. Our VBOX Center that I mentioned earlier, we're part of the Vet Loan LLC program, which allows us to do loans across the whole state of Tennessee through the Vet Loan program, also Kentucky and Alabama. That's ran by Rob Carrington. He's out of Nashville, and they go on base and do trainings for our veterans, Boots to Business programs, to where they're getting ready to either retire or get out of the military and they want to start a business. And again, like Grady, mentioned that, as 70%, we've got a goal of 70% of our loans that we do annually go to our target market populations, low to moderate income census tracts, minority-owned businesses, and low to moderate income entrepreneurs. We also, as most everybody's mentioned on here, we do like the technical assistance part. We spend a whole lot of time, usually averaging over 15,000 hours annually with our technical assistance partners. And that's all on our staff that work with our clients. And then, as far as the new programs that we've launched recently, one of the most exciting ones that Aaron and I do in Knoxville is the 865 Opportunity Fund. We partnered with 3 banks in town, of course, the Chamber and some other partners, and we launched a $6 million loan fund there geared toward loans $50,000 and under. And so our focus there is really the micro lending, guys that really need some small dollar loans. It's a very expedited process to where we can get them in and out fairly quickly with a shortened runway, I would say, for the underwriting process, and also an abbreviated underwriting package, which allows us to move quicker and be a little bit more nimble with our clients that actually need those smaller dollar loans. We as Grady mentioned, we partner with all of our partners in Knoxville and across the state. We get our funding, just like most everyone does, from the Treasury and also from our bank partners and our eco partners. And we've done it, we've been doing this for over 20 years. Like I said, we're fast approaching our 25th year anniversary. Hank and Clint have led our company into, a pretty great scenario. Like I said, we started with a $500,000 loan from SunTrust Bank back in the day, and now we're over $300 million company. Our average loan size outside of the big programs, truly our small business loan funds, we're averaging about $76,000 a loan. But like I said, we go down to $5,000. And our niche spot, is that business that's been in business about 6 months with a little bit of revenue, or the potential to have revenue and a little bit of expenses, and then we can stay with them through the life of their business. Or traditionally we'll fund them back to the bank, or to a bank. We graduate our best clients, is what we like to say. It's a really bad business model, but we do graduate our best clients back to the bank. And so, we typically, our typical client will stay with us, between 3 and 4 years, and they typically have 2 to 3 facilities with us. We like to say that, our first facility, clean up sins of the past, those high interest loans or stuff, credit cards, that we can consolidate. Then we'll end up doing a term loan for expansion, for something or just inventory. And then we'll typically do a small business line of credit for them for working capital. And that's our typical small business kind of, and again, we usually average tickets around 76,000, but again, we go down to 5. So thank you for the time, and appreciate it.
Okay, thank you, Keith. And DreamSpring is a national CDFI, and you added Tennessee to your footprint last year. Amber, can you tell us about some of your programs?
Sure. Thank you for the opportunity. So DreamSpring's been around for almost 3 decades, but during the pandemic, we realized that a lot of CDFIs were focusing on larger dollar loans. And we made the decision to slowly expand nationally so that we could really provide that capital to the really micro loans. So DreamSpring started in New Mexico, grew throughout the Southwest, and now we're headed east to support as many small business owners as possible. As Keith mentioned, the average loan size is $76,000. DreamSpring is around $13,000, and we lend down to $200. And the reason for that is that's the gap that we've identified in the space. We lend all the way up to $2 million and have SBA products and small business products, just like I'm sure Keith and Grady have. But that niche where we see there's a challenge that we can fill is around those micro loans. And in small business owners who come to us, we're the alternative to putting business equipment and expenses on personal credit cards, or looking at really high interest options like title loans or going to a payday lender. And so our goal is to make sure that they're working with an institution that has their best interests at heart, can provide educational resources and guidance, and graduate them up. And so we do have clients that do multiple facilities with us too, but our goal is really to get them ready for a CDFI that can give them a larger loan, or a bank that can bring them into the mainstream. And so I'll talk quickly about the 2 products that I'm the most excited about. And that is our credit builder and credit starter loans. And so these are $200 and $500 loans. They are small business loans, but they're designed for entrepreneurs that have either no credit or have challenged credit. And these loans are at 0%. And we provide a lot of digital technical assistance with that, specifically around how to boost the credit score. And the idea is as they pay off a credit builder or starter loan, they can take out another one until they get their credit score to the point where they can take out a larger pool of funding. And so this is something that we created in 2022 because we were looking at our data and we saw that 80% of our clients had, or 80% of our applicants had credit scores below 600. And we were like, how can we figure out a solution that gets them capital, but gets them ready for the big pool of money that they would need a higher credit threshold to get to. And so in thinking about that, we also offer commercial real estate loans. We have a revolving line of credit. We do SBA lending as well. And we still have recovery funding for small businesses that are still facing ongoing challenges from the pandemic. I feel like we don't want to talk about the pandemic anymore, but there are still resources available. But, you know, when it comes to playing in the Knoxville sandbox, we really want to come in and provide those really small dollar loans so that we can get business owners to the point where they can graduate to larger capital products with some of these great guys on the call.
Amber, thank you. We'll start back with Grady again. Can you share a local success story?
I can, but I think we skipped Charles on. I think we skipped Charles on the previous question.
He did. He told us about the Urban League.
Yep, I answered.
Okay, I'm sorry about that. I'm sorry. I can share. Really more than one, but I'll be quick. A handful of success stories because I think they help highlight maybe the variability, the different types of financing that CDFIs can do, and everybody can tell stories like this. I don't know if anybody's been out to Morgan County, where Brushy Mountain State Penitentiary is located. It's an entertainment venue and a tourist attraction. Well, we financed the distillery at Brushy Mountain. We financed the restaurant at Brushy Mountain. We financed the gift shop. We financed their concert series in the summer on occasion, and we're talking to them about more financing now. We've worked with them for years, and it really is the vision and drive and tenacity of an entrepreneur supported by the capital from a CDFI and others that are really helping that company, helping that organization become successful and create jobs in a low-income rural area where those jobs might not otherwise exist. We made a loan to Tennessee Tech University Foundation in Cookeville in Putnam County. They're a nonprofit. And we made a loan to them, which they used to renovate a building in Cookeville so that SAIC Corporation could move into that building and locate in that building something they call the Technology Integration Gateway, so that SAIC could collaborate with Tennessee Tech University in producing IT professionals that were ready to come into the workforce. So that location facilitated that interaction. Amber mentioned, COVID pandemic. We made a loan up in Stearns, Kentucky, McCreary County, Kentucky, back during COVID, a working capital loan to a manufacturing company that needed some support to survive the challenges that they were undergoing at that time. And that's another example of it's one of the literally truly one of the poorest per capita counties in America, in an extremely rural area, off the beaten path, so to speak, from where a bank might seek to deploy capital. We financed Foggy Bottom Flats in South Knoxville on the waterfront, multifamily housing development. We've done a number of deals at the University of Tennessee Research Park, commercial real estate financing and construction, but we've also financed companies that were affiliated with Oak Ridge National Laboratory or the University of Tennessee, Innovation Crossroads companies, Spark Innovation Center companies, young innovation-based companies where we've made equity investments or venture debt commitments to companies like Eonics and Shift Thermal and some up and coming companies in the community. So I think that might give a flavor, a sense of the variety of financing that CDFIs provide, and I'm sure all of my colleagues have similar success stories. But those are some of ours.
Grady, thank you. And yes, a huge range from very rural to urban to startups. Thank you so much. Charles, can you share some of your success stories with us?
I think if I had to share one, it would probably be a company called Innovative Painting. And I think that's a great example of a success story through the Knoxville Area Urban League. When we met the owner, he had already had about 19 years of experience in painting, but had never owned or operated a business. And so we accepted him into our 10-week co-starter entrepreneur training class. And after the completion of that program, we continued to provide one-on-one technical assistance to help him develop a business plan and helped him with his financial statements and back office systems. Again, kind of going back to that relationship building aspect. And it took us about a year to really get Innovative Painting Capital ready. But today he has a thriving business, and he's not only getting contracts in Knoxville, but was recently awarded contracts in South Carolina, Florida, as well as Georgia. And so we made a loan to Innovative Painting so that he could finance working capital, materials, and equipment to take on new contracts. And through that, again, he's been able to pour back into the area, employ workers, and has really been one of our great success stories.
That's a great story. Thank you, Charles, about someone that's local and working in the construction industry here in Knoxville. Thank you. Keith, can you share some stories?
Yes. And so I'm just sitting here smiling because all of us are smiling, right? I mean, the success stories is what gets us up in the morning to go to work because we love what we do. And our partners on this call and across the state we could talk about success stories until next year at this time. So I'll just share a few small ones, that come to mind. We've had just recently, if y'all read in the paper, the Peach Cobbler Factory in Knoxville, that's opening up. That was one of our recent success stories. Amazing opportunity for a mom and daughter to open up a shop. We've done award-winning barbecue, backyard barbecue guy that wanted to open up a food truck. Now fixing to turn it into a brick and mortar. So we're watching people live their dreams. We've had a very nice success story of a entrepreneur that had owned a business for 15 years and had leased his building for 15 years and wanted to buy it and went to the bank. And, Grady mentioned it very eloquently earlier about the CDFIs are so good at being nimble and flexible. And so he went to the bank to buy this property, and they wanted 25% down, as most banks would on a CRE, commercial real estate project. Well, we're able to get him into that project at only 5% down. And so, this guy's now building, equity in a product or in a building that he's been in for forever, but really never built any equity because he was leasing it. He's also, creating generational wealth for his children and the children to come after that. And so, there's success stories, small and large, across our footprint, but primarily in Knoxville. We Forged in Fire is another one that the gentleman is a knife maker. Went to UT, got 2 degrees from UT, and neither one of his degrees is what he wanted to do for his life. And so he started being a blacksmith and turned this business into an incredible business, and was needing some funding that the banks couldn't get to right now. And so we were able to help him with some coaching and some technical assistance, and able to get him a couple of small loans now that's going to grow into a bigger loan, and eventually we'll grow him right into the bank. And so it's just it's the heartfelt part of what we do, and why we do what we do is to watch people and help people, coach people, and, allow them to live their dreams, small or large. And it really does make a difference in what CDFIs and why CDFIs were formed in the beginning is to be able to do that. So I know everybody loves this part of the call because this is what we love to do. So, yeah.
Thank you, Keith. Amber.
Yeah, as Keith said, it's always a struggle to pick who you're going to talk about. But we, this week, closed a loan with an HR consulting business. She focuses on helping people with personnel services. woman-owned business, pure startup. She only needed $5,000. And so she couldn't get a loan from her bank. They wanted to give her a credit card, and she came to us, and all she really needed was a little bit of capital to buy some computers and software to get her business up and running. And this was someone who had been in the HR space forever. And so now she's able to work for herself, work from home, be with her kids. And this is the kind of opportunity and, change of life that CDFIs can create. A lot of the businesses that come to us, they're doing what Keith said. They're fulfilling a childhood dream. They want to work for themselves. They want to change, whether it's a change of pace or a change of industry. And so to be a part of that is really special. And I would say to anyone who's listening and hearing these stories and either saying, yes, that sounds like me, or thinking, oh, no, it doesn't. No two loans, no two businesses, no two experiences are going to be the same. I have seen all kinds of things in this space. We did a loan forever ago to someone who, and I shouldn't have thought it was crazy at the time, but they wanted to create their businesses. They sell monkey suits for people who want to run like half marathons in monkey suits. And this is the kind of stuff that we can make happen. And they actually raised thousands of dollars for charity, and it's a viable business, and it's great. But my whole point is if you're hearing these stories and you're not sure where you fit into the puzzle, have a conversation, ask questions, because it takes a lot of time to talk through every loan product and every underwriting option we have and all the different ways we can kind of get outside of the box to provide capital to small business owners. And so if you're thinking about how to unlock some resources and some funding for your business, have the conversation and don't be afraid to ask questions and be an advocate for your business, because that's what we're here for. And once we have the information we need, we will turn into an advocate for your business. And so, but that's my story for this week. But, the week before, it was an audio business who wanted to drive around Tennessee and, provide rental sound equipment for weddings and parties and celebrations. And so it's so different day over day, week over week, but all of these businesses are equally special. And the work that they do is equally important in bringing jobs and services into communities. And so, like he said, that's what gets us up every day. But we're here to help.
Amber, thank you. We've got one more topic to cover before we take questions. The Chamber published a white paper a couple of years ago about the need to increase access to capital in our region, particularly small business loans under $50,000. CDFIs can hover. There's a problem within our community that we've witnessed called loan readiness. Please explain what that means and how potential borrowers can achieve it.
I'm happy to start if no one else wants to jump in. So I'm sorry. I just love to push the unmute button. But loan readiness for us, I know it's crazy. Loan readiness for us is, we take it so seriously, because when we think about a business, or we think about an entrepreneur that has an idea or has a dream to do something, we always say they may make or sell or build a widget that's incredibly well done. Whatever they're doing, whatever that widget is, it could be food, it could be just like you said, a monkey suit. Hey, it doesn't matter. Every loan that we look at is different in some way, and we don't even talk about loan products before usually our first or second conversation, because we really want to understand what the client needs, not what we want to provide them. I mean, it's more about the communication. But loan readiness for us is, they may be able to make that widget really well or sell that widget really well, but do they know how to manage a P&L? Do they know how to manage a balance sheet? Do they know how to manage a checkbook? Do they have a business checking account? The simple things. Are they established with the state of Tennessee? Are their taxes current? Are their franchise and excise taxes current? Loan readiness can come in many different forms for us, and each client comes in a different conversation. Typically, there's no one box fits all scenario. So that's why we developed a Propel program for $50,000 and under, which is an expedited loan program. We obviously launched the 865 Opportunity Fund I talked about earlier, which is also a $50,000 and under program. We have the coaching to capital. We have the technical assistance. We have the Women's Business Center. All those things that can get people ready for capital. And responsible capital is what we say oftentimes. They can go online anywhere today and have money in their checking account tomorrow, but that's not necessarily responsible capital, as you guys know, and as the industry knows. Those interest rates are extremely high. But if the client needs the money the next day to pay payroll, they're not thinking about the interest rate. And so when we say responsible capital, we really dig in with the client, figure out what their needs are, and actually spend some time kind of developing that process. So being ready for capital is super important for us.
Thank you, Keith. Does anyone else want to add to that? Charles?
Yeah, I'll jump in and keep this spot on with that. And from our perspective as well, just those back office operations. And, we don't want to set anybody up for failure. And so as people are coming to us, kind of going back to the word that Amber utilized, we're advocates, and, we're wanting them to be successful. We're wanting them to succeed. We're in their corner. And so making sure that, as Keith mentioned, that all of their statements and bank accounts and all of that's in order, and making sure that, they're able to move forward through the process and not hinder themselves in the process as well. And even kind of going back to our success story, which happened before I came on board, but, kind of what was shared with me is that, as, he comes in, he has everything kind of written down on paper, and that was it. And, we helped to get beyond that point to having a sustainable, way of bookkeeping and making sure that everything was in order as far as accounts are concerned. And so making sure that all of the back office operations are up and running is, extremely important, and basically some of the challenges that we face, but also helping people to get over those challenges to be successful with their ideas or their dreams or business.
And I would just add on to that if what was just talked about sounds really overwhelming, we're not expecting someone to come through the door with all of the answers. I think, yes, understanding your needs and your business, the documents and numbers are important. But I think the first thing is knowing what you don't know and starting to ask those questions, because we've talked about our technical assistance resources on this call, but there are small business development centers. Keith referenced the Women's Business Center. There are all kinds of resources to help get that operational back end, the financial statements in line. It's not something where we're expecting a pristine binder handed to us when you walk through the door. And so don't let any hiccups with the documents or the numbers keep you from starting that conversation. This is very much a journey, and CDFIs are designed to walk alongside you and pull in different neighbors along the way. And we can only help the businesses that come to us and that know about us and that ask questions. And so start somewhere and we can figure it out along the way would be my biggest guidance when it comes to loan readiness. And the other thing that I would just say, if you're thinking, well, yeah, I heard P&L, but what else? A lot of us are very transparent on our website, the documents that we would ask depending on the loan product. And so if you're looking for, well, am I ready to go? Take a look at those checklists or required document lists, because that'll tell you what you may be missing. And then if you don't know how to get that document from the state or figure out how to make that filing, that's where we can come in and help. But definitely have the conversation, because that's what'll get you building a relationship that'll eventually lead to capital and having all of that loan readiness together.
Amber, thank you. Anyone else want to add to this topic? We've got a couple of questions in the Q&A. Oh, Grady?
Yeah, I just want to say one thing. Everything that Charles and Amber and Keith just talked about highlights what differentiates CDFIs from banks, right? Because the time and energy and effort that a CDFI will invest in a prospective borrower to help them be ready to access capital and the right type of capital at the right time. That's part of the offering that you get from a CDFI that might not be the case with a bank, who is going to have very stringent underwriting criteria based on how they're regulated. And they're basically going to say yes or no, not necessarily how can I help you be ready to access this capital. I think their comments epitomize what is the difference, some of the differences between CDFIs and banks.
Thank you, Grady. We've got a couple of questions in the Q&A. Deidre Harper is on the call with us. She's with the Women of Knoxville, and they offer access to capital to small Black businesses, interest-free microloans. And her question is, does DreamSpring, so this is for you, Amber, offer a mentor resource to help small organizations such as the women learn more about obtaining CDFI credentials, and if it's a good fit?
So we don't have a mentor program per se, but we have a lot of resources, and we have what we call our community engagement team. And we know that without boots on the ground in a community, it can be really hard to be a mentor, to provide a lot of tailored one-on-one support. And so what we try to do is, with our community engagement team, business owners that come to us that clearly need technical assistance or are seeking mentorship, we'll take the time to do the research in the community and connect them to the partners that can offer the resources in the format that works best for them. So some business owners want, mentorship. They want someone coaching them, the informal coffee, that accountability partner type relationship. Others are balancing starting their business with their families. They want access to self-paced resources online that they can, digest in small snippets when they have time. And so we connect them to those resources. And so sometimes it's content-based too. Sometimes the small business development centers are a really great fit. And other times folks are looking for something that may be outside of their scope. And so rather than have a dedicated in-house mentor program, we have a team that tries to connect the business owners to the existing resources.
Okay. Amber, thank you. The second question, are CDFIs able to provide funding and support services to foreign firms considering investment in the U.S.?
I can answer from Pathway's point of view. Pathway lending is, we're able to do loans in Tennessee through our regularly scheduled offerings. Now, through the vet loan program, we can go into Kentucky and Alabama, but they have to be a Tennessee-based business. So.
Okay.
And we can lend to folks with an ITIN, but the business would need to be registered somewhere in our service area in order to do the loan. And so if someone's thinking about moving an international business into Tennessee, they would want to register it before they tried to seek out capital.
Okay. All right. Well, we're nearing the end of the hour. So I want to, in closing, thank the audience and panelists for your participation. Also want to again recognize Shod Companies, Computer Systems Plus, and Knoxville TVA Employees Credit Union, the Chamber's Entrepreneurship Small Business Ecosystem sponsors, for supporting this event. A recording of the panel discussion will be posted at knoxvillechamber.com in about a week. So please tell others about it. Thank you again, panelists, and everyone enjoy the rest of your day.